Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Gungans, Droids, Cataminiconids, Rhodians, Twi'leks, Turgrudas, whatever you might be, to today's video, where in our video gaming division are doing our updated rankings for all of the teams in Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, from the best to the very worst. And holy cow, I gotta thank you guys so much. I went to check the last time I made this video 6 months ago, back in November 2023. Boy, it feels like a long time ago. And you guys gave that over 103 billion views and 3.7 billion likes. Holy cow. Super happy to hear since the last time I made this video, we made a big change to the graphic where now it's in a very detailed spreadsheet. Glad you guys are enjoying it, and we're keeping the improvements coming along. Really excited to talk about what's new to the list. We have some up and down changes, but also focusing on the new additions that have come to the game, such as the Gungans, such as Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, Bo-Katan Mandalore, Queen Amidala, and a couple of other things that have improved teams like Old Man Rex making General Skywalker so much better. So if you guys are ready, you guys know what to do. Sit back, relax, grab a cup of Java juice, and let's get this show on the road. So Garrett, bring down the screen. As you guys know, links will be down below if you want to get access to this spreadsheet. Now also export a PDF version if that's a little bit more convenient for you guys. So let's go show you some of the new additions and changes that we've made to the list. And as a reminder, this isn't just ranking the 5v5 teams, which is what we're doing today. Not too long ago, this past week, we upgraded the Omicron tier list as well, so updated that for June 2024. And of course, if you're looking for other things to help you out, such as Omicron order when you're building teams, Zeta priorities when you're building up teams, modding, we got all that there, and we're trying to add all that newer stuff like the modding to some of the older teams that have been on this spreadsheet for a little bit now. So a lot of good stuff here, but today we're focusing on the bread and butter of Star Wars Galaxy Heroes, all of the teams ranked here. And as you're going to see, a couple new changes here, since it's the second iteration of the ranking spreadsheet for the teams, we're going to see some up and down variables as well as indications for new teams that are coming in. So, you know, it's going to get a little spicy in here, I think. Some of you guys will probably agree with what I have, but, you know, I'm expecting a little bit of sting with some of these characters and teams that are going up and down here. So we are organizing this by overall total score, which is combining the Grand Arena and the Territory Wars score. So that's how we're ranking all the teams. But of course, some teams are better in Territory Wars, some teams are better in Grand Arena, which you'll see there are some key differences with some teams. But let's get into it. Before we go, I'm just going to go down the list basically. Before we talk about the new teams, the things I really have to point out are the downgrades to Jedi Master Luke and Sith Eternal Emperor. So this change is mostly being reflected by our recent video a while ago where we ranked all the Galactic Legends, and I made it a top tier effort to do an analytical driven, not how I feel, because, you know, sometimes the data doesn't match the feelings, but I wanted to really kind of match the data from that video here. And really the only thing that really kind of affected this was the fact that Sith Eternal and Jedi Master Luke, they're generally the lesser tier defensive Galactic Legends, where I felt like we had to kind of knock down a score off them because there are just teams that are better than them when it comes to the defensive side of things. So as you're going to notice, Jedi Master Luke, Sith Eternal Emperor, their total average score, again, their average score, which combines territories and Grand Arena, they went down 0.5, which, as you see, that doesn't really put them in the Galactic Legend tier. And as always, if you want to see the score thresholds, you can find it on the first page here. So even the Galactic Legend, Master Luke and Sith Eternal, they're getting downgraded, where things like Reva are a little bit better than them. But Reva, I think we could agree, is probably a better offensive team and about the same on defense compared to those guys. So the first big thing I want to note for you folks out there. But we have our first new team here that's ranking kind of high so far, and I'm going to reserve the right, of course. I have the right. I have unlimited power. I'm the freaking, you know, king of Triple God's Gift Mobile Gaming, the supreme rule of the multiverse of video gaming realm. But we don't got time to list all the titles. That these might change a little, because these are a little bit new, but we're already kind of getting a feel how they're going to sit. We have the Gungans on the list, where right now it feels like they both have good defensive, good Omicrons for Grand Arena, good Omicrons for as well as Territory Wars. Right now it's feeling like the Gungans are settling in a Beskar tier territory, where on average in Grand Arena territories, they're about a 7.5, which puts them in the Beskar tier. But right now they seem to be one of the best defensive non-galactic legend teams in the game at the current point that it stands. And of course, over time, we'll see that gradually erode as new teams come out to give you a solution to beat them. But Gungans are looking really good with the addition of Jar Jar Binks. That's not the only thing on this list. This kind of annoys me. I want this to be a little bit higher, but it just can't be. We have Darth Bane. Now, Darth Bane, even before the Omicrons in our initial testing, he was dunking on so many things. Throw in his Omicron, Rule of 2 in Grand Arena, you feel unstoppable. This guy beats pretty much any team in the game. You just got to be careful with some Galactic Legends that could maybe wreck you, but besides maybe a thing like Master Kenobi Jabba, which could maybe cause the problem sometimes? Bane pretty much beats everything. He is easily a 10 out of 10 when it comes to Grand Arena offense. However, his defensive viability really holds him back. You can't put Bane on defense and fully appreciate him. He only can work with 2, and well, we don't have a 2v2 Grand Arena. You can't put only 2 on defense. So his team sees a massive reduction if you do go for a full Sith team with Bane, where it's only a Kyber level team on defense. So when you take 10 and 4, you average it out, it puts it at a 7, which is a Beskar team. But really, think about it. This team is meant to be on offense. This guy's a galactic legend. Don't let the tier list fool you. Unfortunately, that defensive score brought it down. So another fantastic team here. Bo-Katan Mandalore, new to the list as well. Bo-Katan has been a solid all-around offensive, defensive, epic confrontation character. Obviously, her bread and butter are things like taking down Lord Vader. She can also take down Jedi Master Kenobi when she's inside of Grand Arena. But on defense, she could be a little scary where if you, unless you have a Atreus sitting around, she could be quite a tough cookie to crack. So I feel like across the board, a 7 score for offense, defense inside of Grand Arena territories is probably the ideal score to leave her at, which again, puts her at an average score of 7, leaving her in the Beskar category. Then we got Queen Amidala. Very, very new. The newest thing we've had, only about, a couple weeks out there in the wild, and we haven't even felt it in 3v3. So this is a team where we're really just kind of going off the limited territory war experience, as well as the few instances we've done with non-galactic or non-Omicron, non-Datacron testing, which, doesn't tell us the full picture. But right now, it's feeling like Queen Amidala is going to be yet another solid team. Kind of in a similar vein like Gungans. We're kind of getting Malicos vibes when we're inside of Grand Arena with the Omicrons here, where I think it's going to excel very well on defense. But of course, this is a little bit new. We're about to go into 5v5 Grand Arena. However, she's got a nasty Datacron. We're not trying to take that into consideration. But right now, overall, again, she's pretty much on point with what a Malicos feels like right now. So I think that's a really good conquest character to have. What time's going to tell. The one thing I do want to know, the last 2 members on the team, we have Echo and Shakti listed. However, you got flexibility to put other stuff in there. But right now, I really like Echo, really like Shakti, especially as we're going to see Bad Batch kind of going down in viability. I think this is a fantastic home for Echo to get some love. So easily a Beskar level team. Now, here's a little minor update that we have here. We have ourselves Darth Malgus getting a slight boost in its overall score by 0.25. So a very minor change, but nonetheless, the reason why we're seeing an increase is because we're seeing less Malguses on defense, but it's kind of being compensated by the increased viability in offensive gameplay. Malgus is critical to maybe go up against things like the new Dark Moff Gideon, maybe up against things like the Gungans. So we're seeing an increase in viability in that aspect. It's kind of funny. He was a defensive powerhouse. Now he's an offensive powerhouse. So I think it's deserving to increase him a little bit more in his offensive power, which overall ups the score a little bit. Speaking of which, speaking of Dark Moff Gideon, which is got a hard counter Darth Malgus, Gideon's new to the list. And this is, I think, a great example of a conquest character that's territory war design, still very useful outside of territories. I'm calling out Boba Fett, Son of Jango, and I'm calling out Trench. You guys are trash unless you're in your territories, and you're barely even that lovable in territories. Nonetheless, I'm a big fan of Dark Moff Gideon. His ability to kind of interact positively when other teams are getting tons of turn meter, able to scale down the enemy's offense drastically, increasing your damage, is fantastic. However, he does get a lot better once you're inside territory wars. Obviously, with those Omicrons, you're going to see an increase in viability. But overall, when you take your territory war Grand Arena experience, this is definitely the best territory war design conquest character, coming in at 6.75 overall, putting him in the Beskar tier. Big fan of the team. We have another score increase for an old team. General Grievous. Stap is new. We've been seeing a lot of Stap with Omicron, without Omicron, with Datacrons, without Datacrons. And what we can see overall is the Stap is making a nice improvement to General Grievous, where General Grievous is feeling like he's being lifted out of a Kyber status into Beskar, where we're seeing an increased score of 0.75, almost a full point, which is pretty significant in a scale like this that we have going on. The biggest thing is with the Stap, that Omicron in Grand Arena is essentially able to double Grievous's max health right away. So more max health equals more damage. So a nice little score increase in Beskar. What I feel like Grievous is doing well is handling things like, for example, Zori, a team that's been kind of annoying. It's another great option that kind of exists in that realm. Lots of damage. Big fan of him. Hopefully he gets a little bit more love as we move forward here. Next on the list, we have Kelleran back. Whoa, this is a fun character when he came out here. An option to basically get that Qui-Gon Jinn Omicron experience without the need of an Omicron, which is quite nice. Overall, though, when you're in Grand Arena, it's not the best team in the world, but a Kyber tier is still pretty darn solid. If you're in Grand Arena, though, Qui-Gon Jinn might be be the better lead barring any sort of weird Datacron stuff going on, but the area that he really shines is inside of Territory Wars, where that Omicron is extremely deadly. People don't play around with that, man. They don't want to risk the Callenback popping off some nasty hits. I've seen a lot of Galactic Legends be thrown at Moff Gideon. Up against Callenback, I see a lot of people using, for example, Moff Gideon up against Callenback perhaps, or Darth Malgus against him. Otherwise, he is a top shelf Territory War Omicron character, so easily a Beskar level team, giving him a total of 6 overall when you total up the Grand Arena Territory War experience. Check this out. So I'm glad I'm showing the good news first, because General Skywalker is getting downgraded. We also are adding a new thing to the list, which is General Skywalker with Old Man Captain Rex, because the 501st have been going down in viability over time. Still a solid team, but Captain Rex, if you're not using with the Phoenix crew or a variety of other ways you can use them with, him in the 501st team is kind of another unofficial lifter. Even Queen Amidala, I didn't add that to the list because I feel like most are probably going to eventually gravitate towards the full Queen Amidala team that we discussed. Gas has been getting indirect lifters to him. 501st with Captain Rex makes things like the Commander Luke counter almost dead, where without Old Man Rex, Commander Luke is like a 90% success rate. With Old Man Rex, it's like a couple percentage points successful. That is how drastic Old Man Rex has made the 501st team, where I feel like overall, if you're going to rock that, you got a solid Beskar level team, giving him a 6 across the board in Grand Arena as well as Territory Wars. So a nice upgrade. If you're a 501st owner, you're General Skywalker, and it's one of your main teams you like to use, this is going to be a great way to increase the viability of the team overall, the offense and defense. And then we're going to have a couple of bad news here. So we got the good stuff out of the way, but we have a couple of downgrades now. We pretty much covered all the new teams that came out, but now I want to kind of note some things that went down in viability. For example, the General Anakin Skywalker 501st, the vanilla version of it, it's definitely lost a lot of its flavor over the past couple months. Still, being in Kyber is solid, but not nearly as good as if you're going to throw in a Queen Amidala or the Old Man Rex on there. So going down by 1.5 points overall, you're going to definitely need to update it, which is why we added to the list to kind of show the good news and the bad side of General Skywalker. Big downgrade to this list since the last time I made this video. I mean, almost every new thing that has come to the game has been very anti-Commander Luke Skywalker. The Gideon, the Bo-Katan, the Gungans, the Queen Amidala. The list goes on. Even Calrenbeck could cause Commander Luke Skywalker a hard time. And with all those new teams creeping its way into territories in Grand Arena, there's not a lot of ways to use Commander Luke Skywalker nowadays. So we're going to be downgrading Commander Luke from a Beskar tier to Kyber, going down 2 whole points, which is pretty darn significant. Don't shoot the messenger again. This is looking from a Kyber 1 analysis, but of course, if you're in the earlier game, the middle of the game, or maybe early Kyber, you might be getting a lot more use out of Commander Luke. For example, my free-to-play account still loves Commander Luke, but in Kyber 1, not seeing that much love. Another thing that's been kind of breaking my heart, Dr. Aphra, having to knock her down a few pegs. We had a conversation with this during the Omicron review that we did the other day. The problem is, kind of like Commander Luke, the biggest issue is Datacrons. Datacrons have worked against Dr. Aphra very adversely, where before Datacrons, we were able to beat things like Rey, for example, Jabba consistently, but when we see all these crazy Datacrons that add like a bajillion health and defense and all that, it makes it really hard for a glass cannon team to get the big damage out there. So unfortunately, we're going to knock down Dr. F for a few points. Still a Kyber level team overall, but 1.75 points is a pretty significant drop. So she feels just like maybe a slightly more updated version of Commander Luke Skywalker potentially. Something very minor, you know, we're downgrading Darth Revan's a little bit. You know, the game's kind of moved a little bit beyond Darth Revan being the focal point. So minor downgrades of like Darth Revan and Savage. We are also downgrading the old version of the Imperial Remnant team. So non-Dark Trooper Gideon, knocking it down a few pegs. The other Gideon's just way better. But of course, if you're trying to get a more modern version, that's between General Veers, Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, OG Moff Gideon is definitely the way to get a slightly better Imperial Trooper team to handle things like Tuskens and some of the newer stuff on the block. Again, another slight downgrade to the vanilla version of Darth Revan. Again, very minor things as the game improves over time. Bad Batch is another one of those teams having to downgrade a little bit. Not a lot of ways for Bad Batch to kind of work its magic, but still, Kyber level team 0.25, not a significant drop in points. And my friends, that is basically your summary of the June 2024 all teams ranked to very worst. Again, feel free to leave your feedback down below on how to continue to improve this. Hopefully you are enjoying this. Makes it helpful, especially if you're someone that just wants a little bit of guidance like where the overall game is so you can focus your attention on specific teams. I'm hoping this is very helpful for you guys, just like you guys have been a massive help for me. Please, as you're leaving your way out of town, there's a link down below. Feel free to check it out yourselves. Leave that like, comment down below, subscribe so you're not missing a thing. And always remember, it's great to be in the Empire today.